Nick Rekieta of Rekieta Law, a small law firm out of central Minnesota, is under attack by a big corporation out of Loserville, wherever. They sent him a cease and desist letter because he allegedly was using one of their streams during several of the trials that he does on his channel. And we know he does great streams. I've been on the show. He's been on the show. We've had a lot of good time examining all of the legal news, keeping tabs on the courts. But Law and Crime was not happy about this, and so they sent him a letter telling him to stop. In this video, we're going to take a look at this in a minute. This is a 4x4 of a number of different streams that were all happening during the Kyle Rittenhouse trial. You can see Rekieta's down here. We have PBS over here. Down in the bottom left, we have CBS, and over here we have Yahoo Finance. And so we're going to take a look at all these streams in parallel. I sync them up. We're going to watch it and see if Law and Crime had something very unique that they were doing that made their coverage copyrightable, that would give them any privilege at all to say, Nick, you can't use our stream. All right, so some background from Rekieta Media. He's over there on Twitter. Make sure you give him a follow and certainly subscribe to his channel. It is down in the description below. Here he says, the other day, Law and Crime sent me a threatening cease and desist letter accusing me of copyright infringement. In this letter, they represented the majority of LNC content I used in my feed are not part of a pool. This appears to be untrue. And so we're going to examine this. What is a pool? What is a pool feed? How does all this work? And so you can see here, he is actually clipping from a copy of the cease and desist. And here's what it says. It says, blah, 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 YouTube's live streaming policies. Then they say, hey, Nick, it is increasingly important that you also understand that the majority of Law and Crime's live feeds that Rekieta Law YouTube channel has used in its, quote, infringing content are privately owned by Law News, and you are not part of a pool. Saying their feed is not part of a pool. It's theirs. And any individual or entity, like people like Nick or like me, that seeks to use privately owned content must first obtain explicit permission from Law News Inc. This distinction, they say, must be understood by you. Yeah, Nick, you dummy. You better understand this, and it must be understood by you, or else there's going to be consequences from Law and Crime. So what are they so upset about? Well, of course, this right here. This was over from Nick's stream. Kyle Rittenhouse trial Monday, live closing arguments. You can see there are a whole bunch of people on there on the left side of the panel. If you're not familiar with well, everybody's familiar with what happened here because it was incredible. So look down here in the bottom. You see 1 million views, 1,006,035 views, which is a ton of views. About 300 or so thousand more than Law and Crime got. And so you'll notice that here, this panel of attorneys, very astute law tubers, were commentating in real time over the Kyle Rittenhouse trial. You can see this is sort of a picture-in-picture thing that's happening here, and they are commenting as it's going on in real time. Now, this portion of the commentary was using Law and Crime's feed. There were other feeds going on, and we're going to do a deep dive examination of them in parallel with one another in a minute. But what Rekieta did is the heavy lifting. Appreciate it. Says that Kyle Rittenhouse trial was streamed by Court TV. When found an article that details the following. This is shown in a press release that we'll read through here, and he's indicating that Law and Crime is using the same camera feed as Court TV and everyone else. It appears to be pooling with Court TV in this case. We're going to show you exactly what is happening. So, Court TV, according to this press release, will be airing the trial of Wisconsin versus Rittenhouse. We all watched it. We covered it in depth on our channel here. Rittenhouse has been charged with what we know and acquitted, fortunately. Trial is scheduled to begin, blah, blah, blah. Okay, as with the murder trial for Derek Chauvin, Court TV will work with court officials to install its cameras, okay, its cameras. And, you know, we're going to see that, okay, even if Law and Crime brought their cameras in and set them all up and published the feed and all of that, does that really even matter? Right? They're not producing the trial. I have an analogy that we're going to try on, see if you like it. But we're going to take a quick look. Once again, this is the problem. You can see 1 million views down here. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 lawyers all commenting on this in real time. And they just happen to be using Law and Crime, but they used a bunch of other streams as well. I went on there very briefly, and I don't remember what stream we were watching when I hopped on there, but they were bouncing around. Even when I went and sort of was doing my research to make this video, there was all sorts of different, they were poking around to PBS and some of the others, because this is what it looked like. If you went in there and searched, Kyle Rittenhouse live stream, everybody was streaming it. You've got PBS NewsHour has it right here. They've got 2.87 million subs. They've got ABC 7 Chicago. We've got two of theirs, two different streams, I think. One in the morning, one in the night, whatever. We have Kyle Rittenhouse trial from Yahoo Finance. I know there were many others who were all streaming it because I clipped from others, including CBS. And there were several more in the search results. And so what did I do is I went back, and basically what I did is I assembled, what you can see here probably looks very complicated. What I assembled here are 4 snippets of the same time of the trial. So here, what we're going to look at is Thomas Bingy Binger, who's going to be delivering just a portion of his closing arguments. And the reason why we did that is because that is the portion, that's what they were watching on Nick Rekieta's channel. When Binger was delivering his losing closing arguments, they were watching Law and Crime. And so, okay, let's take a look at that segment. So here we can see we've got Nick Rekieta is going up here. We have next up, we've got PBS, which is over here. And so what I want to pay close attention to are the different angles. Okay, because if they're all using the same cameras and the same feeds, they're all going to have relatively, the same camera angles because they're using the same gear. Now, that doesn't mean that they won't have different multiple camera angles. As we're going to see, there's a number of different camera angles. We've got Binger on his left side over here. We're going to see Binger from his right side. We're going to see a Kyle cam, which you can see down here. And we're also going to see a slide cam. But the point is, this is the exact same time frame in all 4 of these videos. So we've got Rekieta, we've got PBS, CBS, and then we have Yahoo Finance down here. And so each one of these is a different layer of the video. So all of these are stacked on one another, and you can see the sound files, which we're going to look at later, are also different tracks that are in sync. You can see they're sort of blank right here, which means that they kind of look like they're in sync. And we're going to break this down in a minute. But let's pay attention and watch what happens when we watch. And you can see while I was working on this, I was actually watching Jeremy from The Quartering. Very cool channel. I just started following some of his work and learning a lot actually about YouTube from what he is doing over there. And he also is coming to Nick's defense. All of LawTube is sort of circling the wagons because of this nonsense. Let's take a look at what is happening now. We've got, this is all 4 of them synced up together. And once again, if I pull myself out of the way, you'll see we've got CBS down here. We've got Yahoo here. We have Rekieta up here, which is streaming the Law and Crime stream, their stream allegedly. And then in the top right, we have PBS NewsHour. And so let's watch this all in sync together.
So when we think about the defendant,
now pay attention to the different cameras. Okay, so Rekieta Law changed, Law and Crime changed at the same time PBS changed. Now they all changed to slides. Now watch, Law and Crime will change. We're going to see a different cam.
We're out there that night protecting him. Was he genuinely interested in helping people? He ran around with an AR-15 all night and lied about being an EMT. Does that suggest to you that he genuinely is there to help? He's not there for the same purpose.
Sorry to put you through Binger here, but...
So why was he there?
All right, so Law and Crime changed. That's the Kyle cam. PBS changed. That's the right side of Binger. And then Law and Crime goes back over to the right side of Binger. That is the only difference in any of these streams. And so now we'll start to see they switch over to the slides.
And I asked you this 2 weeks ago today.
PBS is still on Binger. We have CBS and Yahoo have not changed off of the slides yet.
That no one person's life is more valuable than another.
And then we're going to see the Kyle cam here.
You don't kill someone simply because they're a drug dealer. You don't weigh a pastor's life over a teacher's life. You don't weigh a police officer's life over an engineer's life.
He's saying this in case anyone heard about Rosenberg.
Now there's Good Logic chiming in. Law and Crime goes back to the Kyle cam. But the other streams also have the Kyle cam. Look.
I want you to keep in mind that we've all read stories
and they're all using the same feeds.
To stop an active shooter or to give their life to save others. In fact, many people in Wisconsin went out and got carrying concealed weapon permits just so that they could
And
be there
that
in
is
case
the
of attack.
same camera. All right, that is the same camera. So what's happening here is I am somebody here on this channel who uses a switcher. I have a device, a mechanical device that has buttons on it that allows me to switch between the camera and between the slide. It also allows me to install other cameras. I could switch to my phone. I could switch to everything that I want to. I only need two things, a camera and the slides. What they were doing there, what it looks like, is they had independent feeds that were spliced into different switchers. And so that Law and Crime could switch differently. You could see they cut over to Kyle Rittenhouse, where other streams didn't cut to Kyle Rittenhouse, but they didn't have an exclusive Kyle Rittenhouse feed or anything unique or anything that would be transforming the trial in the first place. All they were doing was using the exact same feeds and just switching between them a little bit differently. So I'd be very curious if it actually is their camera or their gear at all. Regardless, the only thing that they're doing slightly differently is maybe using the Kyle camera where other people are not, but they all have the Kyle cam. It's not Law and Crime's Kyle cam. And so we know that they're just all using the same angles and the same gear. We just watched four examples in parallel, but they also, of course, are using the same audio because, as we've talked about, in Law and Crime's stream, they were not commenting over the trial like Nick Rekieta was doing. He had 9 lawyers there and they were all commenting over this thing. But for Law and Crime and for all of the other streams, there was really only one audio source. Multiple people speaking, but it was the trial. The audio source was the trial, just like the video source really was the trial, just multiple different angles of it. And Law and Crime doesn't own copyrights to either of those things. It's not theirs, it's the public's, it's the court. And so we know that there were different angles or different switches taking place off of the same feeds, but the audio was also the same as everybody else's audio feed. And so if you take a look deeper at the audio specifically, you can see there are different tracks here as well. And so just like we've got 4 tracks with the 4 different videos, we've got Rekieta, PBS, CBS, and Yahoo. We also have 4 different tracks that mirror this. So this one's going to be Rekieta, this one's going to be PBS, this one's going to be CBS, and then this one is going to be Yahoo. So they sort of mirror each other, okay? These two are together, these two, and these two, right? They pair up that way. Now, if you take a look at the audio files, and I know this is super geeky, but this is the type of stuff that you do when you compare and contrast and you look for differences. Who made some differences? Who changed the actual trial? It's pretty obvious that Rekieta did. We have a couple different examples right here. You can see there was some language going on here that's different because there's a spike in the audio that's here that's not in any of the other streams. So Nick and his crew, the LawTube team out there that were all sort of, commenting in real time, making facial expressions, people watching, whether their eyes go up or down, scoffing, all of those things, right? That's very important communication. Human communication is arguably, according to some studies, 70, 80% nonverbal in the first place. So the idea that you have to say something to make an adjustment here is just, I think, not even exactly right. But you can see there, regardless, there is a difference. There is something that happened here. Somebody said something. We have another one here. You can see there's very, very clear audio here, but somebody was making a comment or a sound there. We've got a third one here. This is very clear on all of the other streams. Somebody's talking here. And then lastly, another one here, right? We can see this. It's kind of like, which one of those things is not like the other that we used to play around with. And you can see very clearly transformative in a way that none of the other streams were transforming. So, I don't think there's even a leg to stand on at all. But regardless, Rekieta is going on, and he's also confirming this, I think, with even more evidence from his Twitter feed. Make sure you give him a follow and subscribe over on YouTube. Says, this is from the judge's order in the Halderson trial. This order states that only 3 video cameras can be in the courtroom at one time and encourages media companies to cooperate. Both Law and Crime and Channel 3000 were broadcasting identical feeds. Looks like a pool. This is exactly from the court order, right? Cooperate. We can't have 35 different cameras in every single courtroom, so you guys got to share. He's got another one. Kim Potter trials the worst offender, says the attached order shows that not only was it clearly a pool production, it specifically disclaims any copyright for any media outlet. In other words, what Law and Crime is doing is totally inappropriate if they are referencing the Kim Potter trial. It says neither the pool producer nor any media outlet will hold a copyright or any intellectual property for the raw footage from the cameras or the single transmission feed that is produced that would prevent any other media outlet like Nick from using, broadcasting, or sharing the footage. Okay, so it's explicit here, but it's sort of implied in the other agreements. That's why it's pooled, because you have to share it. He's now watching Theodore Edgecombe on his channel. They say they misrepresented something else about this order. Here you can see it's clearly a pooled feed. So here, the media will be allowed to transmit a pooled live audio visual feed from the courtroom. So here he's saying that the majority of the potential streams that he used were from those major trials, and that Law and Crime has misrepresented their ownership of these feeds. Yeah, Law and Crime is angry that a commentary by a panel of lawyers outperforms a stationary camera. Yeah, I will not be bullied by a multi-million-dollar company misrepresenting facts and law. Fair use is real, but what may not actually be real is any claim of actual ownership that Law and Crime has asserted. Of course, he's discussing it at length on his channel, and I am in total agreement with this. I summarized this as such on Twitter. I said, you know what? We've covered a lot of trials on this channel. I don't recall ever seeing any non-pool feeds coming out of Law and Crime ever. In other words, something unique from their channel that's different from the other pooled feeds that we've ever seen. I just haven't seen it. Now, different angles, we just covered that one, but it's also from the same stream, from the same courts. All right. Unless their cameras and mics are literally next to the pool gill such that you cannot see a difference in the feed, but then you would see their permission detailed in the court orders, and we don't, as we just saw. And even if Law and Crime argues that their physical cameras are there, they're agreeing to use them with an understanding that it's pooled, as we saw. Even the judge is saying, everybody behave yourselves. You have to share out there. I do appreciate people from Law and Crime, of course, Glasfeld reports and many others, but I say it's like a neighbor saying you can't watch the city fireworks unless you're standing in his backyard. And the takeaway, of course, is the stream is a public service. Somebody's going to broadcast this thing if Law and Crime refuses to do it. And the entire point of having a public stream in the first place is to promote transparency. Law and Crime trying to hoard a public feed, trying to keep all that legal justice news to themselves, trying to stifle innovation and stop a guy like Nick Rekieta and other lawyers from getting out there and innovating and actually doing something new and exciting in the legal space just feels a little bit out of bounds to me. What do you think about it? I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Of course, please go and support Nick Rekieta. He's a good guy. He's been on this channel many times, and he is, I think, on the receiving end of something inappropriate. So make sure you give him some support and some love. Also, be sure to subscribe here. We have a live show that we do every weekday, and I would love to see you there. I look forward to seeing you all on the next one.